Hello, you beautiful people. Aaron here, back with another video. As we know, shielders are by far one of, if not the strongest defensive class in the game, as not only do they make up for your mistakes in gameplay, but they also don't subject you to getting knocked around, therefore increasing your DPS. This is incredibly important in the case of certain characters who cannot afford to get knocked around and mistime something, or they just can't afford to dodge, or they are easily susceptible to damage. These characters need shields to function, but the roster for good shielders, I said good shielders, thank you. However, the roster for good shielders is incredibly small, as there are only two choices. But not anymore, kids. Welcome Layla, the newest shielder, and quite a monstrous one at that. But before we continue talking about her, I just want to say, if you like my content, please like the video and hit that subscribe button. Now back to it. Layla in her entirety is a cryo shielder with high single target cryo application. Layla has mostly HP scaling with some minor attack scaling on the side. Her elemental skill has her cast a shield around herself, and it summons a star once every 1.5 seconds. If another character uses their elemental skill, 2 stars will be summoned. After she summons 4 of them, the stars will fly out one by one and hit the nearest enemy. The first star for each volley will generate about 2.5 particles on average. Both of her ascensions impact this, as her first one grants the current character shield strength for every star summoned by her skill. Her fourth simply grants the star's damage additional HP scaling. Her elemental burst is a simple huge AoE that is very reminiscent of Lisa's burst. When the burst is deployed, it sends out a star once every 1.5 seconds to the enemy closest to the center of the burst. Additionally, when a star from her burst hits an enemy, her elemental skill will immediately summon the star. The damage of these stars scale off of her max HP. Both of these abilities will last 12 seconds with a cooldown of 12 seconds or a permanent uptime. Her constellations are, well, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, they're insane. Her first constellation not only increases the damage absorption of her shield, but it will also grant a shield of hers to everyone without her shield when she activates her burst. This might seem like it's only good in co-op, but you can actually use as single player too, by activating her burst for the shield and cryo application, swapping through her sub DPS units, then swapping back to her to activate her skill. Since the game takes the strongest shield present as priority for the shield on the character, doing this can prolong her shield lifespan in certain situations where you would need it to. Her C2 continues with insane buffs to Layla, as each star that hits an enemy from her skill will restore 1 energy to Layla. This constellation will lower her energy requirement by about 9, which is crazy good. Her C4 is another broken constellation that grants a flat damage bonus based on her max HP to the next normal or charged attack that hits for the party whenever her skill starts a volley of stars. Unlike the buffs for Shenhe or Yunjin, this buff does not have a stack quota, and instead has a duration after 1 hits, where it will then expire. The duration is so short that it allows only 1 normal or charged attack, but she is guaranteed about 3. Her C6 makes the stars from her skill and burst deal more damage, while also reducing the time it takes for her skill to summon stars. From what I can tell, this is more of a DPS increase than utility ability. Her internal cooldowns for elemental application is normal across the board. This means that her skill will apply 2 applications of cryo per volley of stars, and her burst will apply 1 cryo once every 3 seconds. This makes her cryo application pretty sporadic, yet still very functional. Now, I have praised Layla for being an absurdly strong shielder, but how strong could her shield actually be? I mean, she's directly competing with Toma. Get out of here. She's directly competing with Zhongli and Diona, 2 characters who have been touted as amazing defensive characters since basically the start of the game. So, can she keep up? Well, let's start with her base shield and see how that holds up to the likeness of the other shield. Fine, Toma, you can join. For these calculations I'm going to show, I will be using these characters at rather high investments, and I only considered HP for their shields to show their scalings. That being said, I have invested in them artifact sets to maximize their shield capabilities. So Zhongli and Layla will run a full 4-piece tenacity set, while Diona and Toma will run a 2-piece tenacity with a 2-piece emblem. For the builds now and later on, I will have all characters at high yet possible investments. You can reach these points and even surpass them, though it may be hard. Every character will run a weapon that is considered one of their best. For Zhongli, I used both Favonius and Black Tassel because he can run either, but Layla does not have a must-have at this point because she's not out yet. So I asked all of you what you plan to run on her. The majority of you said the Favonius sword, so we'll be going with that. On screen now are the shield numbers, and oh my god, Layla is insane. Not only is her shield on par with Zhongli's in damage absorption, but it's also a simple elemental skill, unlike Toma's, so it's easily spammable and usable. Given the same type of weapon, Layla's shield is actually able to outscale Zhongli's, at least at base. However, Zhongli's does have a Geo shield, which makes his better than hers in all situations other than Cryo, where she takes the lead again. Toma is actually able to compete quite well with the others despite my efforts to push him out of the equation, but this is mainly because he is invested with full HP and is lacking energy recharge. When these things are considered, his shield is actually more on par with Diona's, but relies on his burst. While judging their shield strength is a valuable way of judging a character's strength, so is judging the utility and comfort they come with, as these are the reasons why Diona is considered even stronger than Toma. Let's start with Toma in this situation. Toma offers the possibility of noblesse buffing if you have strong enough substats. He has a 15% normal and charge attack bonus at C6, and he can act as half of the Pyro Resonance for that good old 25% attack buff. On top of this, with the Favonius Lance, he can help battery your team. One thing you might notice is that these are all if statements, meaning you have to fulfill certain conditions before you are able to actually get these buffs. Another thing is that his buffs are conditional, as they only work with characters that scale specifically with attack or deal their damage with normal or charged attacks. If a character does not do either of these things, Toma is practically useless for them as a shielder. On top of that, attack percent buffs are pretty weak overall due to oversaturation, making almost all of his buffs rather pointless. On the other hand, his direct competitor Diona offers more and better buffs that can also be used in more situations. Diona can offer a noblesse buff like Toma, but she also offers other forms of great utility, like a movement speed bonus and stamina consumption reduction when her shield is active. She offers the only attack percent reduction to enemies in the game, though you take less damage, and she offers a powerful EM bonus at C6 to allies in her elemental burst. Her burst also heals the active party member, which allows her to make up for your mistakes even after her shield is gone. Not only that, but she also acts as half of the 15% crit rate bonus that Cryo Resonance grants, which everyone but Kokomi scales with. All these bonuses are absurdly powerful in most situations. Some offer nice quality of life adjustments, while others are always crazy good to have, and even though some may not be amazing in all situations, the buffs she grants in more specific situations prove to be very powerful. On top of this, her best weapon allows her to act as a super battery for herself and allies. Since these two are most similar, I do want to talk about Layla next. While Layla may not offer such extreme forms of utility, she does have the benefit of being the best tenacity user in the game, which will permanently buff the attack of all characters. Since her skill generates energy only when Layla is off-field, she is able to act as a direct battery to each character that goes on-field. This battery potential is also on par with Diona's, as Diona with Sacrificial Bow will be able to generate about 8 elemental particles, whereas Layla can see energy generation of about 7.5 with a decent rotation, and that's all by herself without Favonius Sword. She could also grant a Shenhe level flat damage buff to any normal or charged attack damage once her skill starts firing. Then, like Diona, Layla will also be able to act as half of the Cryo Resonance bonus for crit rate. Both of these characters seem almost one-to-one in strength, but for different reasons. Diona offers a weaker shield but more convenience with it, as well as ways to make up for the weaker shield in her elemental burst. Their cryo application is also very similar, as Layla has barrages for a single target, while Diona has a burst for a single target, but also an AoE for most of the time. On to Daddy Zhongli, who is the strongest shielder of them all. Zhongli has very simple, effective, and versatile forms of utility, which is why he's still the best. He offers tenacity for his team, as well as the only form of all resistance shredding in the game. He comes with guaranteed 100% uptime on his shield, and acts as half of Geo Resonance for that sweet 15% all damage bonus. That, with being better than the other strongest shields in the game, make him still the monster statty defender we all know and love. While Layla may not be able to reach the same forms of utility that Zhongli may be able to provide, she does still excel at being an absurdly strong shielder that can directly compete with Zhongli. Since she does excel at acting as a Zhongli level shielder, her stat requirements are straightforward. For her stats, you mainly want to focus on getting a lot of HP. But how much HP, you may ask? Literally all the HP, no joke. You can go energy recharge on her, but it is not much of an issue, as her burst only costs 40 energy. Since she only generates energy for herself off-field, she will be able to generate about 13.5 energy. With her C2, this energy gain would be 22.5, or over half of her burst cost, all without building a single point into energy recharge. Put a Favonius Sword on her and she can generate exactly 100% of her own burst back all by herself. So what stats should you be looking for? You could run ER on her, but that's only really necessary if you don't have a Favonius Sword or her C2. If you want to be safe, a good cap would be up to 150%. After that, crit stats, especially with Favonius, and then attack percent, since she does have some attack percent scaling, but if you just make sure you got that HP, that'll be enough. Now, I have sung my praises for this incredibly strong character, but now it's time to talk about downsides, and that's her weapon selection. Layla does not have a lot of weapons she can use, as there are very few that offer stats that she wants. The only weapons she can really run are the Key of Kajnisut and Jade Cutter for HP, Favonius for extremely strong energy regen, Harbinger of Dawn for some really good crit stats, and Festering Desire for a mixture between the last two. Sacrificial Sword may also seem like a good option, but it has many issues that render its usefulness redundant. She doesn't benefit too highly from the energy recharge substat, since she doesn't need too much. Her C1 has a similar effect as the passive of Sacrificial Sword. Sacrificial Sword's passive can only proc on the volleys of the shield, which is off field, so it won't proc unless you force it, and if you do get the proc, the passive will not net any extra energy, since her skill generates energy when it shoots out its volleys of stars. All of these things combined make this weapon pretty useless for her. Now, taking a look at the 5 weapons stated before, we can see how strong they are compared to one another. Obviously, the 5 stars are the best, since they grant HP to Layla. Even though their energy regen is lower than Favonius, it does not matter too much, since her C2 and allies will help her out in that department as well. Favonius is really strong too, mainly because it allows her to not have to worry about energy. This is incredibly important so she can keep up rotations and it doesn't fall too far behind the other two in the shield department. Festering Desire is really strong as well, since it has the second highest damage of each weapon option for her skill. It offers her energy recharge for more uptime, and you can get it to have the strongest shield of the non-5-star options. Harbinger of Dawn is okay, as it allows her to deal the most damage at the cost of less energy regeneration, and the weaker shield of the others, though not by much. If you want a good strong balance of everything, Favonius and Jade Cutter are your best options. Now time to talk about synergies, which Layla has a plentiful amount of due to her having such an absurdly strong shield. Layla can fit into almost all compositions that are not terribly hurt by her constant cryo application. She even benefits from Dendro, since Dendro does not interact with cryo. This would basically have her act similarly to a Geo character in that sort of position. However, Layla works best with characters that can cast their skill multiple times, those that work well with her really good single target cryo application, and those that have hard-hitting normal or charge attacks when she has her C4. Without her C4, she works absurdly well with a plentiful amount of characters, but she works best with characters like Eula, Diluc, Razor, Xingqiu with Sacrificial Sword, Li, main DPS Bennett, Kuqing, Sucrose, and Ayato. These characters will benefit greatly from the insane cryo application Layla provides, as well as the extra battery potential she grants them. With her C4, she gains more synergies with characters like Yoimiya, Hu Tao, and most importantly, Gan Yu. While the characters before also gain intense bonuses from Layla's C4, these new characters who might not have wanted to use Layla before now can with extreme effectiveness. Melts from Pyro characters are straight up stronger than Vaporize, meaning that if it proves effective, Layla can not only act as a melt enabler for Yoimiya or Hu Tao, but also increase their main source of damage to then multiply heavily off of. This is something to heavily test though, as Layla's cryo application is very sporadic, making it hard to know for sure if these situations would work the way they do on paper. However, this does not matter for Gan Yu. What makes Layla so freaking broken with Gan Yu is that Layla can offer Gan Yu a buff that rivals and even outscales Shen He's buff in some situations. Against mobs, Gan Yu's damage with Layla is able to surpass that of Shen He while having a shield that is even stronger than Diona's. The exact number of enemies that Gan Yu needs to hit with her charge attacks before swapping out is 9, which is basically always guaranteed with mobs. Layla also benefits greatly from being a part of a freeze Gan Yu team, as you would want to run Venti to capitalize off of Gan Yu's quadratic scaling. When everything is inside of Venti's tornado, all of Layla's stars can hit every enemy in it due to their small AoE. Pair these 3 with another astrologist and you'll have yourself a grossly powerful combo. So how does Layla look? Well, pretty damn overpowered if I do say so myself. I'm not really the type of person to say that in the video. Thumbnail, sure, but in a video, I give it to you straight how I expect a character to perform in game. And in this situation, Layla has mostly pros and barely any cons. Layla has an absurdly strong shield with very little downtime, if any at all. When not considering elemental damage absorption effectiveness, it is able to beat out Zhongli's shield given the same setup. Her single target cryo application is absolutely absurd and can possibly rival that of Ayaka's. She is completely energy self-sufficient, especially with Favonius and her C2. She is able to battery her main DPS very well, especially if they are the same elemental type. On top of that, she can grant crit rate through her resonance, and she offers an insanely strong buff at C4. Her only limitations are her lack of amazing damage and her lack of large AoEs. That's it. Well, other than poor weapon movement options. But for the most part, she's only not the best in areas she wasn't meant to be good in. In every other aspect, she contends for a top spot. The only thing that actually matters that can make her worse than she seems on paper is how reliable her cryo application is and how reliable her buff is. If the both of these make it out to be completely unreliable, then she would be nothing more than an absurdly strong shield bot. But if these two things both prove to be extremely reliable, then, well, I expect we got another Bennett. With all the talk of reverse power creep being thrown out into the game, Weverse decided with this one to do the opposite and offer up an absurdly strong 5-star supportive unit under the guise of a 4-star. This character seems so incredibly strong, I am surprised they haven't put her under the 5-star moniker, or heavily nerf her to have her fit with the rest of the post 2.0 4-stars. The level of power this astrologist holds seems to be on the same level as the 4-stars we got back toward the launch of the game, and if I'm being honest, it's about goddamn time. I find that she is so strong that I don't expect her to launch in this state, especially because of the other 4-stars we have gotten since 2.0. But those are my thoughts. What do you guys think? Do you think I'm wrong? Do you think she's weaker? How do you intend to use her? Tell me your thoughts in the comments below. But with that, I will skedaddle for now. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and I hope to see you all in the next video. Bye bye!